Good morning, viewers. We're just at about 7:15 a.m. and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. In this segment, viewers, we're heading into discussions with Councillor Tashia Burris, and she's the Secretary with responsibility for the Division of Tourism, Culture, Antiquities and Transportation. Good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning, Julien, and good morning to the rest of Tobago and everyone who's looking at Tobago Updates this morning.
And this division also happens to be the division that's naturally in the hot seat.
Always.
At this time of year in particular. But just before we dive on in more recent times, we know we would have heard announcements from the Honorable Chief Secretary Fali Chavez Augustine about assisting with the portfolio. You were out on leave for a bit of time. Tell us a little bit personally, some more concern as it relates to your health and so on. Whether you are back fully, because we know we saw some diving into carry out while under doctor's orders. Is this one of those cases? Give us an update where you are now.
I am actually back at work fully. I've been back on the job for the last 2 weeks. So I just kind of, I had to take some rest. The reality is that your body gives you cues before it shuts down, and I wasn't listening to the cues that my body was giving me. So, and actually it shut down. I must say thank you to the medical staff at the Roxborough Hospital who took great care of me while I was under their care. And certainly I needed the rest, and it did wonders for me. Tobago is one of those beautiful places that rest does well with. And I'm back out on the job. I mean, we have situations obviously brewing on a daily basis, and I'm just happy that I've had the support of my colleagues and my family and the staff of the division to be able to continue to focus on the mandate and get the results that are expected of us.
All right. As we move ahead, I know we would have just had a number of some of the major activities happening. I understand that you were able to make it out to the PAN. I suspect that's a little bit because that's part of your, as we say, in your DNA.
It is.
But as we transition beyond some of the festivities that have already started happening at the national level, we want to take a further delve, and we want to start by looking at yesterday. We would have seen outcries coming from representatives who were on the outside of your division, speaking as it relates to concerns with regards to the approach and the attitude and the position that the THA has taken in relation to mass happening here in Tobago for the National Carnival. I'm also aware that a meeting would have been taking place, as they also mentioned, simultaneously. So we'd like you to provide us with some updates coming out of that. Where are we at? Are we progressively heading towards a solution, or are we still at a stalled point where we are at bitter ends?
No. No bitterness on this end. Basically, I think that the genesis of the situation was largely a miscommunication of the position. The THA is not averse to mass. We're not averse to mass band leaders. We know the product that we have created for October. What we have said very publicly is that this is a product, a tourism product that we have created, that we have separated the idea of Tobago having a carnival at the same time as the national festivities, because we understand that all of the attention is what is happening in Trinidad. And we also have said to stakeholders that the product that we put out in October, we must be able to differentiate that product to what we do to commemorate the national carnival festivities. So as you would see, in terms of the approach, we had met with stakeholders since last year, December, to begin to get them to understand where we eventually would want to get to. And we figured that one of the things that we have to focus on is what makes, according to my Chief Secretary, what makes sense, CENTS, and what makes sense, SENSE. So what makes sense for us in February is to support the activities that we know have their natural audiences, that we know that we will get a natural market for support for those activities. And we have good example of that. We've had our interdepartment competition, very well subscribed by staff and of the THA and persons living in Tobago. We just hosted a very spectacular medium band finals in Tobago, and I must say congratulations to all the Tobago bands that participated, but especially congratulations to Cats and Jammers, second year in a row taking the medium band finals. And we see these are the activities that people will gravitate towards when we're looking at a national festival. So we've had very progressive conversations with our stakeholders at Tobago. We've also had very progressive conversations with TUCO as well, because they understand where we want to go in terms of taking February and focusing on youth and focusing on honing our young people to get into the arts, get into the culture, and their contribution to National Carnival celebrations have been for us to support our junior Calypsonians who have gone to Trinidad to represent us. And I must again say congratulations to our junior Calypsonians who placed first and third in the competition. Congratulations to them, and it shows that culture is alive and well and Calypso is alive and well, especially in Tobago. And we also paid grants for our senior Calypsonians to participate last weekend at Skinner Park, because the reality is that a Calypsonian coming from Tobago will have additional expenses that a Calypsonian coming from Trinidad may not have. And recognizing that, we had 6 persons in the semi-finals, and again congratulations to Caston Cupid for his 2nd place in the Young Kings. So again, TUCO got the message. So later this week we are going to see a TUCO Junior Monarch being crowned in Tobago. And I mean, again, as I said, we want to ensure that February really is the ground for us to hone that young talent. So when it comes to mass, what is happening with mass? So we had a 3-hour meeting with the executive of the Tobago Mass Band leaders yesterday, and this was just to literally lay out, you know, what the THA focuses and where we want to target the investment. And coming out of that meeting, because first of all, we had to get the information clear. You cannot have competition without competitors. So we had to get an idea of how many people registered for competition. What is the appetite for mass in February? And what we realized is that we have a very strong appetite for traditional mass. There are 19 bands registered for traditional mass. That would be on Monday. So the 19 bands would be a mixture of senior bands and junior bands, because the traditional category encompasses both adults and children. And we also have 20 bands registered for Junior Kiddies Carnival. So that means that there is a strong appetite in the Tobago space for children to participate in mass activities. However, when you look at the senior mass, we only have just about 8 bands registered. And I want to be able to put that information out there because I want people to have an idea of what to expect to see on the streets of Scarborough. I think we had a situation last year. I think I was out of the country for Carnival. And then after I came back, there was a man who said I should be fired because of the level of the mass that was displayed. But the reality is that the mass product is the responsibility of the mass band leaders. The only thing that the government does is create an environment to facilitate the activity to happen. So yes, we will pay prizes. Yes, we will set up infrastructure. But what you see on the streets of Scarborough is really the creativity of the people who have said, I want to be part of this thing called Carnival. So we have 8 bands registered, and then we also have our kings, queens, and individuals who would be judged on Tuesday. And we have a number of entrants in the individuals category. In some categories, we have about between 11 and 17 entrants. And then for the kings and queens, we have just about 7 or 8 in each category.
Based on that, I want to get from you. Now, they're clearly coming out of the actions yesterday. You get this sense from mass that they want to see the kind of investment in mass as it has happened previously on a large scale similar to October. However, you also have the views of members of the public, some that feel we should not put that kind of money in the Tobago space, because the reality is whether you sit on the side of not putting it or you sit on the side of the mass player, the actual patrons, and all will tell you, the actual participation by a large number of Tobagonians does not take place, and therefore the further investment should happen in October. Exactly. I want to get a sense, what's the position of the THA as it relates to the National Carnival? Are we going all the way as normal, which is what is being demanded by some band leaders and so on? Are we reverting a no kind of involvement, or is there a middle ground in terms of what the THA will support for National Carnival happening here in Tobago?
So the Chief Secretary made it clear last year that we were kind of moving away from focusing heavily on February Carnival. He didn't come out and say that we're stopping our support completely. But at the end of the day, when you're in business, you have to make a business case for continued investment. Tobago has made a business case to the THA and said, look, we have solid support from our bands. We have solid support from our supporters. Please come on board as a partner for medium band finals. Please continue the THA Pan Champs competition. So they have made a very strong case for us to continue to invest in PAN. TUCO has now, realized that better alignment has to take place between February and October, because I could tell you that coming out of October last year, Tobago is able to say that we have a finalist in the March Gras who has gone directly to that big show, who's representing Tobago, guaranteed. So in the absence of anybody else qualifying through the semi-finals, Tobago not naturally always never has a voice. We now have a guaranteed place, so that people understand, or people who are looking at it from a business perspective have to understand that a business case has to be made for continued investment, so that when you see whatever product is being put out on the roads, it's really for the public to say, this what we're seeing here is a good investment, or this what we're seeing here is a not so good investment. Because at the end of the day, the policy of the Tobago House of Assembly has to come from the people. The people have to be able to say, this is what we want or what we don't want. We know that February time, our strengths lie in the hordes of people who come to Tobago to cool down, who come for camp, who come to spend a long weekend, who come to get away from the activities in Trinidad. So we get 2 bites of the cherry. We get loads of people coming up for that 4-day weekend to enjoy the sun and sea and everything that Tobago has to offer. And in addition to that, from Ash Wednesday, we get a second wave of persons coming up who have enjoyed the festivities in Trinidad and they want to take the time to enjoy this style. And we also have a number of parties and a number of events taking place on the weekend after Carnival, which has become the norm. When it comes back to the conversation about mass has to understand that a carnival is the nexus between creativity and business. So if you're in Carnival as a hobby, the government has no business in your hobby. You have to support yourself. If it is that you're looking at it from the standpoint of, this is my hobby and I pay to take part in this thing because I love it. But if you're looking at it for the government to invest in your product, then you have to bring that business case for the government to say, yes, this is a good investment. There's a lot of training that has to take place, because we recognize that the situations under which mass bands may have operated in the past is not how we have to continue to operate going forward. We have a number of laws that we have to come in compliance with. First and foremost, the procurement legislation and all other financial regulations that exist and that predated this administration. We have to come in line with banking policies, because banks insist that persons who are in business should not be commingling funds. So you can't be in mass and having a mass ban and saying that you're in the business of mass, but the account that you're using is your personal account. You must have a registered business. You must have a registered account, because you talk about wanting to access grants, but grants are not the only thing that you get. If you're in business, you have different business loans available. The BDU is there, NIDCO is there, you have business mentoring services, and then if you're also in business, you're treating with suppliers, you're treating with other mass producers, you're treating with people who want to know that they're coming to a business and they are treating with someone who understands how business must be run. So we have a lot of capacity building to do.
As you mentioned, and it's good that you mentioned capacity building, because that's one of the concerns that would have been raised as well, yes. Coming out, that the feeling is that there hasn't been sufficient training and so on to really be able to give that level of support. Is the THA committed to providing that level of support for persons involved in the art form? So
2 types of support we have put on the table already. When we came into office and the conversation was held about the Tobago October Carnival, we spoke about providing capacity building training for the mass band leaders, even since back in 2022. That has not happened as yet, but we have to prioritize that training. The reality is that to source the persons in the space who are able to provide that type of training, we may have to look outside of Tobago. That's one. The second thing is that coming out of the meeting, because one of the things that persons raised was the fact that they don't have business bank accounts. And we've said to them, look, if this was a challenge for you, or this is a challenge for you, we have no problem, providing the communication between the mass bands and the banks. We have, excellent relationships with persons at different banks that we could come to them and say, look, we have 20 mass bands. We have 20 persons here who have businesses. They don't have business bank accounts. How can you facilitate us? How can you help us to get them to the place where they have all the documents that we can get their bank accounts opened easily? And these are some of the things that we are willing to do. We recognize also there's an expectation on the Tobago House of Assembly to provide capacity building, and that is natural. But we also have to look at the fact that people also have to take their own business seriously. Because if you're going to be in something, then by right you need to investigate all aspects of what you're in to ensure that you have all the ingredients in place to bake the bread that you want to bake. So Coming out of February Carnival, after we've had all of the activities, after the dust has cleared, we are going to call back the stakeholders into a meeting, because we are actually getting ready to begin planning and preparation for our October festivities. And we don't want to separate the involvement. It shouldn't be that one set of people are involved in February and a different set of people are involved in October. This is all Tobago product. And at the end of the day, we want to be able to maximize all of the talents that we have in the space. And it doesn't matter where that talent comes from. So getting them back to the table and getting them to understand how they can increase their own capacity to be able to participate, because that's what we want. We want participation. We don't want people to get to a place where they feel like if the product does not belong to them. So as long as we can put systems in place to get people interested and to get people to be committed to increasing their own capacity to be able to be successful, we are there every step of the way to provide that support.
All right. Thank you very much there, Councillor Tashia Grace Burris. Have no fear, folks. We're going to be taking a break, but we will return to continue the conversation with Secretary Tashia Grace Burris as we continue to talk Carnival, talk the happenings in this space, a national Carnival happening here in Tobago, and more than that, the relevant connections through the Tobago House of Assembly with the Tobago October Carnival as part of the overall product being presented here by Tobago. So we take a break. We'll be right back, and we want to remind you that this is your opportunity to share the live, share the live, share the live. Yes, viewers, it's 7:34 a.m. and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. And if you're a supporter of the season and the Carnival any at all, 1 week from now, the parade will be happening in Codler Hall. It will be Carnival Tuesday in Codler Hall. Pioneers on the outside. Something to look out for. That's just the Codler Hall in me. My area of birth and certainly that comfort. But we continue our conversation this morning as we speak in Carnival, the national Carnival happening here in Tobago. And just before we went off, we were chatting a bit about getting a clear perspective of some of the activities being supported by the THA. I know we got a clear sense in terms of the interdepartment competition through festivals, as well as support for the medium band. Could you just tell us very quickly some of the other activities that certainly will have the support of the THA here in Tobago for the Carnival? And of course, we know outside of that, there will be other things taking place.
Yes, so we have THA Panchams tonight. That competition begins at 7 p.m. at the parade grounds, the same setup that we had for medium band finals. And all of our Tobago bands would be on show tonight, competing again. And I expect that it will be a very electrifying competition. And aside from that, for the rest of the week, we have the Tuco competition, the Tuco Junior Monarch, which is taking place on Friday at Goodwood High School, I believe. We also have some tents taking place. So Tuco has their Magnificent Glow Calypso tent. I think there are 2 nights scheduled for this week. 1 night this week and probably 1 night over the weekend. And then we will get into the weekend of activities essentially. There will be Juve celebrations, I think in Crown Point and Roxborough, and we've provided some support for the organizers of these 2 events in terms of infrastructure, trucks, that kind of thing. We will have our Kiddies Carnival over the weekend. So Saturday we will be in Scarborough, Sunday we will be in Roxborough, and then Monday we have the traditional mass parade, and then Tuesday we have the senior bands and the king and queens judging and individuals on the streets of Scarborough.
All right, so Secretary, I want to get down to the dollars and cents, because for many, the concern lies with the fact that here we are, we've launched out a new Tobago October Carnival, to which certainly the investment continues to increase in terms of ensuring that it is built out to where we hope that we want to see it go. And then we have the flip side, being able to match with our continuing to host national Carnival celebrations happening here in Tobago. Are we in a position financially to be able to lend the same level of support to both? And I want us to be very honest and practical in the circumstances here, because I feel like that's one of the key positions that we have to be very clear about here in Tobago. What is the position of the Tobago House of Assembly?
So let me correct you slightly. The initial investment in having the Tobago October Carnival, which started in 2022, we spent just about $13.5 million. And that's across all of the things that we did, from the launch to the marketing to the actual build out. Last year, we spent less than that, because in the model that we created for the Tobago October Carnival, it was purposeful that we ensured that the state's output or the state's investment would lessen as the years go by. Because when you create a business case for something, that is when you get your sponsors on board. So by year 2, we were able to secure 6 major sponsors. The plan this year is to secure at least 20 major sponsors. In other words, there must be a balance between the investment put out by the state and the investment that the private sector is making to have this product on the island. When it comes to our total investment in events and festivals on the island, and the entity that is responsible for that is the Tobago Festivals Commission. The allocation for the Tobago Festivals Commission is $20 million this year. I can say this because the mandate of the Tobago Festivals Commission is not necessarily a national carnival. And let me clarify what that is. The National Carnival Commission, which is NCC, has a mandate for National Carnival, Trinidad and Tobago. But what has happened, and this is a situation we inherited, was that the NCC makes very little investment in what happens in Tobago in February for reasons they know best. But the Festivals Commission has been taking up the cost of commemorating National Carnival festivities over the years. And this is a situation that we will have to have a discussion with the NCC about, because if they have a budget that is put aside by the government every year for National Carnival celebrations, then we have to be able to go to the table and say, well, okay, what is Tobago's allocation out of that $146 or $156 million that is allocated towards National Carnival celebrations in February. And the NCC, their mandate is only that national activity. However, the $20 million that is allocated to the Festivals Commission is responsible for the hosting of all of events and festivals throughout the island, 365 days for the financial year, which means that Festivals Commission has to do a Tobago October Carnival. They have to pay some money for National Carnival celebrations. They have to do stuff with respect to heritage. They may have to support community activities and festivals, because we've given them a mandate to grow indigenous festivals that may not necessarily be products of the THA, but products of the island of Tobago, like harvest festivals and fisherman festivals and Abuku Sunday School and things like that, goat racing and that kind of thing. So they have a mandate for all festivals on the island. Even as a company, they have the ability to give sponsorship to private events and private promoters in the space who have had very solid events over the years. For example, a great race. For example, a great fete weekend. These are events that have become part of the Tobago calendar and part of the events fabric on the island. They have the mandate for all of these activities. Certainly $20 million is not enough money to be able to successfully host these things. So again, we have to make sure that any monies that we spend we can actually measure the return on investment, so that coming out of what happens this weekend, because the mass band leaders have to make a case for what they're asking for. And that case could only be made on the streets Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. But after Carnival, then this administration would have review, because we would have already hosted October, we would have come out of February, and we would be able to communicate a very clear position going forward in terms of what we will support as a THA in February. That is barring what the NCC will come in and support and that kind of thing, and those conversations would have to start. And then certainly people be very clear as to what to expect in an October Tobago Carnival.
So why was I of the opinion, and I'm certain much of Tobago as well, that the NCC would have had that willingness? I know when we spoke before, even you would have heard the chairman, Gypsy, speaking to wanting to offer that support, giving that helping hand, and waiting for the THA to be able to respond in terms of accepting that. Just bring some clarity for us in relation to that. Was that just part of, I'm giving you that verbal support? I anticipated that included some monetary and financial support to Tobago as well.
The conversation about money never arose, because the first thing that we asked the NCC for was technical support. Guide us in terms of your procurement practices and procedures. Guide us in terms of how you set up your logistics. Guide us in terms of how you manage your parade. Guide us in terms of how do we approach sponsors, that kind of thing. And, it didn't work out that we got the support that we requested, but certainly coming out of the conversation as to where Tobago fits in the national conversation, I reiterate that the Tobago House of Assembly receives no money from the NCC with respect to Tobago February Carnival celebrations. And I mean, yes, I know we have medium band finals and the NCC would invest in that activity because it's a national activity under Trinbago. But outside of that, the NCC pays for nothing that happens in Tobago during the February Carnival. So that, you know, again, the THA position will have to be, we will have to review. We will have to sit and look at what is on offer. We will have to see what the business case is in terms of all of the different stakeholder interest groups, what they are bringing to the table, so that we can clearly be able to communicate, okay, this is what the THA will be responsible for when it comes to a national carnival celebration. And it's leaning heavily towards investing in our young people and ensuring that our young people learn the culture, that they can pass on the traditions, that we are able to get our knowledge bearers in the space and raise the level of the education that is there. Capacity building is critical because we recognize that what we have put on offer in Tobago can become a huge economic driver, and we want to get our people ready to take advantage of those opportunities.
Right. I want to get very quickly as well, the Afro Queen Show. Yes. We saw yesterday, again, another press conference taking place, political leader of the PDP, Watson Duke, speaking to challenges and concerns with removing, as he would indicated, the essence and the fabric of Roxborough as the current representative. Please give us an update. What's the status with the Afro Queen Show? Is it that it's out altogether? Is it going to be taking place any at all within the year?
So I'll repeat what the Chief Secretary said in my absence. He indicated, and it's true, because of the short season, getting the logistics together to have the competition was difficult. So we have decided to have the Afro Windward Queen Show in October as part of our Tobago October Carnival festivities in 2024.
All right, so it's definitely going to form part of the lineup for October. All right, the other area that we want to get a little insight into speaks very broadly for us, making that connection. And I want to say some were concerned about the fact that there wasn't that high level of competitive element in the October Carnival. And again, I hear some of the queries now being the competition and the prize money and so on. Is that going to be part of the consideration for further activities in the build-out of the Tobago October Carnival as we're heading into the third edition in this year, 2024?
So in 2022, when we started with no competition, because one of the biggest differentiators between February and October was that competition exists in February, no competition exists in October. And really trying to get people to understand that the Tobago Carnival is a business. You're not getting into it just because there are prizes on offer and just because there's a competition. Last year, we teased the possibility of competition by inviting one of our major sponsors, B-Mobile, to sponsor a Band of the Road prize. And that Band of the Road prize was given in 3 categories: traditional presentation, cultural presentation, and contemporary mass. And that really was a people's choice type competition. People were able to text in and vote, and we got overwhelming response from a number of persons who were able to either play in the parades or witness the parades. And we awarded those prizes just about 2 weeks ago in a thank you function that we had. So coming out of that response, again, as I said, the planning for October Carnival is going to start immediately after this carnival is done. The question will have to be asked, is competition something that the masked practitioners who have made October Carnival their home, is competition something that they want? Because there's always a positive in competition, but competition also has some not so positive outcomes. And I think that one of the challenges that we have seen over the years, especially with the February product, is that some may argue that competition has not really improved the quality of mass. In fact, some people may argue that the quality of mass has decreased over the years, even with the presence of a number of prizes being given across categories and that kind of thing. So we have to kind of go back to the people with that one. It's not going to be a decision made by us alone. One of the things that we have to look at when we look at competition is, are we adding value to the product? That has to be the question that we want to answer. So it's certainly something on the table to be discussed. And when we are at a position where once we've had the conversation, a decision is made, then that will be announced.
Before we close, Secretary, we also want to chat very quickly in terms of outstanding payments. Coming out of the last Tobago October Carnival and some of our festivals, of course, Heritage being the most prominent one, to the extent that the song has now made it to the big stage, as I like to say, the interdepartment stage in Tobago. What's the status with regards to payments for these? Because what I'm getting is a sense of that where the THA is outstanding in a number of areas, the various festivals that have been hosted, and persons have not yet been paid. We want to get some update on that. In some circles, you're hearing that Carnival and others have been paid, and there's another, and Heritage remains outstanding. outstanding. Just clarify for us, what is outstanding at the moment and what has been paid?
So I can tell you that the THA's position is not catastrophic as some people may make it seem. You know, we have no outstanding payments for 2022. The NCC can't say that. The NCC is still owing suppliers for 2022. The THA has made good on all of its payments for 2022. For 23, we have some minor payments outstanding for National Carnival, and those are largely just prize monies that were not paid because there were some challenges with ratifying the results that were submitted to the Tobago Festivals Commission. And those results were only ratified recently, like just maybe a couple months ago, so that we were not able to make those payments before the end of fiscal year. And those would be the first set of payments that would be cleared up, certainly within the shortest order. We have a small amount of payments outstanding for the Tobago Jazz experience from last year. Those payments at this time could be in the couple hundreds of thousands, not $1 million or not anything like that. With respect to the Tobago October Carnival, this happen to the end of October, so that we are getting releases very soon. In fact, the Tobago Festivals Commission should resume payments for October Carnival in a very short order, maybe between now and next week. So service providers who provided services for the Tobago October Carnival should be getting some calls from the Tobago Festivals Commission to start coming and collect their payments. With respect to the heritage situation, I gave a commitment that we will try to make good on all of the payments by the end of last month. The information that I have is that we were able to make good on most of the payments. The final few payments that we have to make are just in the process of getting final sign-off and those checks being ready, so that persons from the division, which is responsible for making the heritage payments, because the Division of Tourism did the heritage last year, persons should be called to come in to collect those payments in short order.
So are we going to see some reworking of the system so as to try as best as possible to minimize what would be the remaining outstanding payments? Now, if a payment is outstanding because there are issues to be treated with, then that's understandable.
Yeah.
But those where things appear to be flowing, but the systemic matters, is that being reviewed in any way so as to ensure these aspects of things are not affecting a person's ability to be paid going forward?
So in general, we have to kind of rework our accounting systems. To ensure efficiency, we need the staff in place. We had situations with a staffing shortage late last year. We've brought in some additional staff, some additional OJTs to help in our accounting departments, because a number of persons went on vacation and that kind of thing. And also what we will have is a lot of training that has to happen, because some of the situations that we encountered were not necessarily because we didn't have money to pay, but because people were not necessarily aware of what they had to do to move payments along. So there was some internal human resource challenges that we faced, but we are working to sort out those situations so that this would not reoccur. And certainly in terms of planning going forward, it is our intention to try to ensure that any contracts that we sign with our service providers, this is where we are hoping to get to one day, where we're able to pay mobilization, where we're able to pay our artists up front, where we're able to ensure that we at least make good on some payments before, so that even if people have to wait for balance payments, it's not the entire amount outstanding, but just the balance of what they're expecting.
All right. So viewers, we take a quick break again before we conclude this morning. A few more areas we're going to definitely be touching on. You know, there's so many things to get in and so little time. But we head on out to a break. We want to remind you that we will be back, but this is your opportunity to share the live, share the live, share the live.
Good morning.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. As we continue the conversation this morning, really seeking to get all the information possible as it relates to the National Carnival celebrations happening here in Tobago. We continue our discussion with Secretary Tashia Grace Burris on set with us. So as we continue, one of the things we want to get a quick update on is as it relates to the CEO for Tobago Festivals. We saw an announcement being made by the former CEO that he's no longer associated with. Just give us a sense of, has a CEO been identified, or do we have someone acting now? What's the whole plan with that process in terms of identifying a new CEO?
So the board of the Tobago Festivals Commission Limited has appointed the finance manager to the position of acting CEO in the interim for a short period while they go out for a CEO. So we should expect that an advertisement would be placed for persons who have the relevant qualifications to apply and to be interviewed for that post.
All right. And the other area that we want to touch on, projections. People are raising concerns. We're looking beyond national now. People are saying, you're seeing all the other islands putting out their artists for jazz.
Right.
What Tobago waiting on again to launch jazz? What's the position of the THA in relation to jazz for 2022?
Since last year, the Chief Secretary was very, very clear when he said that the Tobago House of Assembly would be getting out of the business of doing the jazz event. The jazz event cost just over $12 million to produce. And when you think about a Festivals Commission having an allocation of $20 million, you're talking about a production that takes more than 50% of their allocation for the year, that one event alone. And he indicated that the direction that we want to go is to be able to get private promoters in the space who want to have activities. And what I can say is that there are a number of private promoters who have indicated to the THA that they want to host activities. The Easter weekend is very early in April this year. Some of them have indicated that they want to do activities on the Easter weekend. They want to do activities during the month of April. They want to have activities at the end of April. And we are looking at those proposals to see how the THA can come in as a sponsor and support. But the THA itself as a body will not be responsible for hosting a jazz product.
Before we close this morning, I want to get from you, Secretary, can we get a clear-cut position that will take place following all these activities of the National Carnival? Is the THA going to give, in a similar manner in which you just mentioned, a clear indication was given as it relates to jazz? Can we look forward to the THA also giving a clear position and sense of direction following this carnival in terms of what will take place in going forward?
Most definitely. As soon as these activities are over, and as I said, the dust has settled, we will review all that has taken place. We'll review where we feel our investment would be, the return on the investment that we're making will redound to the benefit of the most people, and we will be able to communicate to the people of Tobago what our final position would be.
All right, excellent. You've got 30 seconds. Your closing words. I know that's difficult for a politician, but your closing statements here as we are in the season.
You know, I just want to be able to understand that this administration has an open door policy. Even though I think people found the protest entertaining in some respects yesterday, I saw some of the commentary by persons on the outside looking in, and it really was not positive. And it casts a very negative light on Tobago as a destination. We have a number of creative people in the space. We have people who take their business seriously. We have people who are doing their best to sell this island. And when it appears that we can't settle whatever the differences we may have in a professional manner, it doesn't bode well for us. And I just want to say that, you know, we always are looking for ways where we can improve the lives of the people that live in Tobago, so that we are always looking for that constructive dialogue. We always want to bring to the table the best situation that will ensure that everybody walks away feeling valued, everybody walks away feeling that their voices were heard, everybody walks away feeling that whatever concerns they had were taken into consideration. We don't make decisions in a vacuum. So I just want us to understand that we're working towards the same goal, which is to ensure that Tobago becomes the greatest little island on the planet, and everybody has a part to play in achieving that.
Right. Thank you very much there, folks. Joining us here on set this morning, Councillor Tashia Grace Burris, Secretary with responsibility for the Division of Tourism, Culture, Antiquities and the Transportation in the Tobago House of Assembly, seeking to clear the air and to give us some of the specifics required as we go along with the position of the THA, and certainly that firm commitment as we close this morning's interview, that there will be an announcement following the discussions and all the happenings coming out now for this February National Carnival events in Tobago, to give a clear sense of direction on the part of the Tobago House of Assembly with regards to the way forward. Viewers, we want to thank you so much once again for tuning in and for connecting with us here on the Tobago Updates morning show. Yes, it's Tuesday. You can look forward to Youth Wednesday happening tomorrow. Certainly our youth hosts are in the mix, continuing to take you through the activities. And of course, we continue to be very proud here as Tobago Updates Television, the only one that has given that firm commitment. There's no no in between. It's dedicated to our young persons continuing to do excellent work out there as they lead the program on Wednesdays, our Youth Wednesday edition. Viewers, we want to thank you so much again for choosing the Tobago Updates morning show. At this point, we prepare to head on into Tobago Notes, and this will be followed by GMT. Bye-bye for now.